Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning. Good morning. If you're in the house, please comment the state that you're tuning in from. Reason why I asked that is I'm going to dive into some tactical strategies as it pertains to each state, and I'll walk you through some things. So we're going to have some fun today. Today's topic is how do we pay off debt fast and build wealth at the same time? Many of us are trying to do one or the other. And over the years, working with over 1,000 plus families, I've been able to witness people do the same thing at the same time, despite whatever circumstances, whatever obstacles, whatever challenges that person, that family may be facing. And I think having that belief that you can walk and chew gum at the same time, essentially, but as it pertains to your financial freedom goals and desires, what's the biggest obstacle most of us are facing today? It's debt, whether we like it or not. Some form of debt. It's your house, it's your cars, it's your student loans, it's your credit cards. It's all of these obligations that you have that's really holding you back from having the clarity, having the vision, having the right business, the right opportunity, the right relationships to accelerate that wealth. Again, despite whatever age, whatever past circumstances, whatever divorce, whatever a death in the family, it doesn't matter what it is. When you have that belief, and it's a matter of like, how do we get there? How do we get to that belief stage that this is possible? That you can both pay off debt with the finances that you do have coming in now, and we can implement some strategies, but at the same time simultaneously build wealth without having to drive any kind of dollars into it, where you can leverage things, and we'll get into what those things are, to be able to build wealth so that you're not sort of like losing time. Some people think, well, let me not pay off this debt and let me try to invest instead. Or some people are trying to pay off debt and then they are sending money away from themselves. So they're delegating their retirement, their passive income, they're delegating it to someone else, Wall Street, their advisor, anywhere but themselves, and hoping and praying for a rate of return that simply isn't even competing with the amount of debts that they have. So by the time they become debt free, the value of their money decreased so much, their rate of return on the investments didn't perform as well, and then, oh, market went down, so now you lose money there. Now you're debt free and broke, and you're still in the dilemma. Like you still didn't solve it. You still didn't solve the main problem, right? You're so fixated on paying off debt and then trying to delegate the rest that you missed out on a major opportunity. So we got Andrew in the house. Welcome out of, what is that, South Florida? Southwest Florida? Okay. Orlando, cool. And we got New York. Awesome. So we got 14 plus or so people in the house. Please comment what state you are tuning in from. And when we get into the Q&A part, I'm just going to run some tactical stuff. We'll do some research as it pertains to the strategy that you may or may not be implementing, or particular strategy that you're trying to implement. With that, let's take it to the whiteboard real quick. I'm going to establish some groundwork, build our foundation, and then I'm going to put a case study together for you to really show it happening in real time. Okay? So as it pertains to paying off debt fast, I think, yes, there are tons of strategies out there, tons of different tactics and moves that one could make. But before you implement anything, what I have been doing a lot of with my clients, I've just been asking different kinds of questions, trying to get a little bit deeper with each person I work with and really help them build their personal development. And within that, I'm asking questions around their values, around their faith, their belief systems. What mission are they on? Or what mission do they want to be on? Their purpose. And ultimately, when we can get clear on these things, that is going to help us build a very, very strong foundation so that any strategy that seems difficult, hard to comprehend, hard to implement, is going to come much faster in their, it's going to land in their brain. The light bulb's going to go off much faster than dealing with someone that doesn't have a strong foundation. I would like those that are tuning in live, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong your foundation is. On a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is your foundation as it pertains to these topics right here? How strong are your beliefs? Can you defend it? Can you articulate your values, your beliefs, the mission that you're on, the purpose that you have in life? If I was to ask you, and you can type in the comments and you can formulate your ideas, what are your values? Give me 1 or 2 values. What is your belief? What's your faith? And what is the mission that you're currently on? Do you have one or do you not? What is your purpose in life? What have you been put on this planet to do? Can you articulate that in a few sentences in the comments? That's something I want you to work on while I continue. And this is, I would say, the secret, quote unquote, that you see a lot of successful people have in their life. The reason why they're able to accelerate wealth so fast, pay off debt, serve at the highest level, I believe it's because they have these main things down packed. That it doesn't matter what the circumstance is, they are dialed in. They know exactly who they're supposed to serve. They know exactly where they're supposed to be. And they have a level of conviction when it comes to their values and beliefs. They're so convicted that they're in the right place, that they're doing the right thing, that it creates this, call it this energy, this aura, that when they walk in a room, the energy shifts. People are drawn to them. They articulate their values, beliefs, their mission, their purpose to everybody else. They're able to convince everybody else in the room that they're supposed to be there, that they're bringing the highest level of support, customer service, value, etc., etc., etc. It just becomes infectious. And so now when that happens and you change people's energy, focus, attention, and you give tremendous value, guess what happens? The transaction of that exchange, as human beings, we measure that in money. And it could be anything. That's how we measure things. The amount of value I give to you in this video, if this is your very first time watching me, will determine how our relationship flourishes, either positive or negative. So if you get a positive first impression when you first land on my YouTube channel, or if this is your very first video watching me, or watching me live, right? You can comment that as well. Based on how I deliver value to you today, will determine what the future holds for our relationship, and then ultimately the transaction that may occur. Whether it be a financial transaction, it could be a spiritual transaction, it could be a relationship transaction, it could be a referral transaction. And again, at some point, there's a monetary exchange. So even if you never do business with me, let's say you personally never do business with me, but I gave you a lot of value and you were able to save thousands of dollars on your debt-free journey just by watching my videos alone, it was so valuable that you organically, naturally spoke to your friend, partner, family member, coworker over breakfast, lunch, dinner, conversation. That was a referral, potential referral. You don't even know if it'll create any fruit, but it was a potential referral. Okay. Now that person goes and looks me up. They watch one video of mine or they jump on a live. They get tremendous value and it results in a transaction, a financial transaction, because they then went on my website and they purchased a coaching program for me or a consultation, or they decided to work with me on life insurance, or they clicked on one of my affiliate partnership relationships, which they then did business with that person, which then resulted in a financial reward transaction back to me. And meanwhile, you didn't even know that your friend, years later, you find out, months later, I've had this literally happen. Like I have clients where they're like, my dad, my brother spoke about you, or my brother's wife, my brother's cousin, right? Or my aunt this way, my coworker mentioned this, and I started watching because they spoke about you, and then I then went to this other YouTube channel, saw you again on that YouTube channel, and I was like, wait a second, blah, blah, blah. And then you prayed about it, boom, that results in business. Your friend doesn't even know. They just sent business my way. That was the transaction. That was the mentality. Because I'm dialed in on my values, my beliefs, my mission, my purpose, my foundation is rock solid 10. Okay, some people commented a 7 so far. That was Jerry. That's my only person that is participating as of right now. Okay, 20 people in the house. Again, tell me what state you're tuning in from. We got New Jersey in the house. Then tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is your foundation as it pertains to your values, your beliefs, your mission, your purpose. If I was to ask you, what are your values? What are your beliefs? What is your mission? What is your purpose? How confident in you in explaining that in a few sentences in the comments. Work on that. Give me some more time, and then I'm going to read them off, and then I'll take us to the next stage. But that story that I'm giving you is what has put me in a position today to be able to deliver tremendous value to people because I'm so convicted in the things that I'm doing. I know I'm in the right place. And when you're operating in your purpose, on your mission, with strong values and beliefs, guess what else happens? You start to let go of certain things that are holding you back financially. You're able to lighten your load and you're able to accelerate faster. You're able to move faster because you're no longer concerned about what other people think about you. You're no longer concerned about the watches, the jewelry, the clothes, the shoes, the car you drive, the house you live in. These things start to become so low in your list of priorities. They start to just drop all these material things that cost lots of money throughout your life. You start to just spend less organically, naturally. You're not even trying to budget, to scrimp, scrap, save, preserve. You're not even trying. It just happens organically because they just become less and less and less important. You're not trying to go to the expensive restaurants. You're not trying to spend more money when you leave outside and go on entertainment. Things that start to entertain you now cost way less, such as reading a book. That only costs you 10 bucks, 20 bucks, as opposed to going to the movie theaters and spending $75 for movie tickets for the family and another $50 in the snacks and foods that you throw half of it out, or you don't even drink the whole soda because it was a massive amount. Took 3-4 hours of your day, and you come back drained, you're tired, you don't want to do anything afterwards. And it slows you down economically, but also slows you down spiritually and physically. You're personally not developing, so it's slowing you down tremendously. Okay? Paul says maybe 4 to 5 on my foundation. We're in Minnesota at a 7. Nice. Paul, client, love it. We're working together. Think it's been a while since we last connected, so we're gonna jump on a call soon. So I'm looking forward to that. So my point, spending a good amount of time here on the personal development side, I believe is what's going to take everyone here to the next level. You're gonna find yourself like it happens in such an organic way. You start to direct attention here. So we want to redirect attention, and we want to move with intention. Attention, intention. Redirect attention. What does that look like? Again, certain things that entertain you today are no longer going to entertain you. Certain drawbacks like TV, subscriptions, a change of environment. You could even say friends and family. You're going to spend less time with certain people, certain friends. You're going to spend less time with certain family. It's not because you don't love them. It's not because you don't love your friends. They're just not on the path that you want to be on in this current season of life. What I love about this is you are not losing anything. This is not a trade-off, although some may present it that way. So what I'm saying here is no trade-offs, no compromise. How do you spell compromise? Compromise? Let me know if I spelled that right. Compromise. Compromise. No compromise, no trade-offs, no losing. Because it is simply a redirect, or another word for is repent, which means you simply changed your way of thinking. You changed your way of thinking. Before you repented, you reflected. You're reflecting on your life. You are contemplating these ideas, these stressful thoughts that are going through your mind, you're in a place where you don't want to be. This YouTube channel is not necessarily a entertainment, although I might make you laugh from time to time. This channel is not a place where people are necessarily trying to learn something, although I may teach you things. This channel has been designed in such a way where everybody I've ever interacted with, literally, this is the common thread of every family I've worked with. Personally, I can't speak for my entire YouTube channel in terms of the amount of people that follow me. I'm sure there's people that literally search for something and then I popped up. Thank you, YouTube, for doing that from an algorithmic perspective. Love and appreciate that. Specifically talking to anyone that has worked with me one-to-one to some capacity. And those of you who are in the house, clients, live, and you've done work with me in the past or even currently, please testify to this. Please back me up on this or disagree with me. And then that'll help me reflect on some things as well. But the common thread that I've seen over the 1,000+ families that I've worked with over the last 7 years, every single person has come to me with the initial desire to want to change something about how they're living as it pertains to their finances. It's not that they want to make more money, which is a byproduct of changing something about your life. The result is you will make more money, you will get out of debt, you will be a better steward. But the initial part is you're like, I've got to change how I'm thinking about my money, about my future, about my family's future, about the way we operate our household finances, about the way my faith and my money lines up. Something pertaining to change. And when you can see that, when you know it, because you're coming to me with that desire, maybe you just didn't articulate it at first, but I personally see it. And from my perspective, you're not losing anything when you change. When you decide to change, I don't think you're losing anything. I don't think you're trading off anything. I don't think you're compromising, although it may seem like that because you're no longer participating in this particular way of living or this activity. It may seem that way. It may logically seem that way, but spiritually, there is a revelation occurring. There is this redirection, the word re is like you're remembering your original authority in life. You're remembering the place you're supposed to be at, even if you've never personally been there, but spiritually in your dreams, in your visions, in your thoughts, you've been there. So technically, you're remembering a place of peace, a place of authority, a place of freedom as it pertains to our money that you ought to be at, and you're not there today. So if you can think in that way, where it's a change first, which results in you repenting, you transform your mind. You're renewing your mind. You transformed. And so now, since you're like this whole nother person that's getting ready to direct all your attention towards personal development, your values and beliefs, your mission, your purpose, forming your foundation. Once you have that, I promise you, not only are you going to pay off debt extremely fast, but your wealth is going to build simultaneously at the same time. So now the strategies, and there's plenty of them. The ones that I've put here on the board, I think resonate with this that we're building so far. I think it resonates really well with what we're building so far. These are not just strategies, but they're also a way of being. So when we think about ways of being, when you're being something, you're not doing something. So being is not doing. Because in order for you to do something, you've got to be it. And let me prove it. Most of us have a W-2 job. So you have a certain skill set and a certain reputation, some level of credibility that got you hired at this W-2. And for most, the number one reason for most why you're in that W-2 is for money. So a lot of us go in to that W-2 position, we work, and so we're doing something. And the way the system is set up in our country for W-2 is part of the interview process. Nobody is asking who you are. What's your state of being? What's your purpose? No one's really asking that. The company knows who they are. The company knows who they're being. And they need to find the right skill sets, the right reputation, the right credibility of other people to leverage the doing. And that is the transaction that occurs. Simple. And this isn't throwing W-2 positions under the bus. It's not what I'm doing here. What I am saying is the way you went into this is how most of you do life. With relationships, friendships, a lot of us are doing before being. And so if all you do is do in life without being, the final result is you're a pretender. So many of us are pretending to be something we're not, or to do things we don't want to really do, all for this money. And the funny part about money is we invented it. We as human beings, we invented money, and we spend our entire lives chasing something we invented. Isn't that weird? So again, if you can realize what's happening in your life and the goals that you want to achieve, you want to build wealth, you want to pay off debt so you can be in a better place, right? Have freedom, all this stuff. We have to take a close look and see, where are we pretending and just doing things? And all I want to do is spend a little bit of time. So far, I'm 30 minutes into this video, and I believe I've made my point. In about 30 minutes or less, I believe I made my point. And so if I can spend 30 minutes to an hour with each and every one of you on a one-to-one basis over a period of time, or you spend it with someone that is a professional, someone that's not necessarily a close friend or close family member, someone that's a professional that loves doing this, that loves working through this, then we're going to be able to explore this state of being that you're supposed to be in. Because once you're being it, which is your values, your beliefs, your mission, and your purpose, once you're being that, the doing comes with ease. The doing becomes joy. So now you do things for joy, and guess what? There's no compromise, there's no losing, there's no trade-off on the money. Because I would argue when you're operating out of joy, money follows with it. Money's like a way of keeping score, in a sense. But having joy in being who you are and doing that at the highest level of service, the transaction for human beings, people on this planet, the result, the product, there's going to be some form of financial transaction that occurs. And there's many ways that can happen. All right. So now, giving you the frameworks and the steps, what our focus and attention should be on, let's now assume all of us are there. Okay. Let's assume everyone's there. So we got Chris in the house, definitely wanted to change for sure. So that's confirming a point I made earlier. Paul, money doesn't come with instructions. Follow Denzel's instructions. Love it, Paul. Thank you for that. Okay, beautiful. Let's assume everyone in here and those catching the replay, let's say you watched, you're 30 minutes in, you're dialed in, you're focused, and now 40 plus people in the house. Let's say you're dialed in. Let's assume you know what your values are, you know what your beliefs are, you know what mission you're on, you know what your purpose is, you have a strong foundation, I'd say an 8 or higher, say maybe 7, 8 or higher foundation, strong. Now we're going to get into the strategy part, which is the execution of it. Now we can execute because we're convicted. Like anything we touch now is going to turn into gold. It's going to be successful. Some things to consider. You don't have to do every single one of these things. You do have to do some of them in order to have this acceleration that can occur in your life. So culture change, I put that first because what you have to realize when you truly decide to not only pay off debt, become debt free, build wealth, serve at the highest level. When you decide to do that, you have to, I'm going to make you aware of something that I would say over 95%, maybe even upwards of 99%. But I'm going to be generous and say 95% of people on the planet have not truly made that decision yet, have not gone through this process yet. 95%, I would argue, have not made that decision, which now puts you in a minority category in a positive way. You are now in a minority category. The moment you do that, you will be exiled from certain families, certain friends, certain circles, even on the internet, social media. The moment you start speaking in this minority, what I would call this kingdom language, where you have now elevated to a very, very high level of thinking, high level of operation, high level of authority. When you are operating at a high level of authority, guess what? The peasants, okay? The pansies, the haters, the naysayers, the negative Nancys, the disappointments, the losers, the quitters are all gonna have opinions. okay, that are designed in a way to bring you back down to their level, because that's where they met you. That's where they met you. They met you at their level. So when you were at their level, you were not a threat. You were no harm. You were an equal to them. But the moment you decided to culturally shift your household, husband and wife, kids, the environment, literally your energy, your aura, I walk into your household, smells different, smells like kingdom in here, smells like peace, smells like wealth, smells like honor, smells like glory, smells like authority, smells like someone knows what the hell they're doing in here. And when you invite people into your space that don't know who they are, that are still doing in the red pill manosphere community, they would call those people the people who are stuck in the matrix, right? Those are the blue pill people. They're stuck in the matrix. And you have the very few that did take the red pill. They stepped out of the matrix and decided to take control over their life. So I have to make you aware of this, because your previous self that you have let go of, your previous self that you have now graduated from, is gonna try to convince you that you need to go back to safety. Because over here in the 5%, in the minority community, it is not safe. It is dangerous. It's the jungle. It's scary. It's risky. It's all this stuff. It's a scam. It's too good to be true. It's all this stuff. I'm letting you know in advance, it's none of those things. It's risky to your former self. It's purpose to your current self. It's drive to your current self. It's peace. It's freedom to your current self. And you're going to chase after it with every breath you take. And you're going to be humble, and you're going to be graceful, and you're going to be generous and abundant in the process. And that's just what it is. So a cultural change, I'm gonna use like small things that can lead to huge transformational experiences. Small things. A cultural change in your household could simply be that you maximize your clothing until there are holes in the clothing. Say your shirt, jeans, shoes. Yes, even the socks, right? You're culturally shifting from looking at the most expensive brands to looking at quality of life, intention. Does this shirt, does this pair of jeans, does these shoes actually benefit my health? And for some, they might go a little bit higher in value, might go down. It's not necessarily based off of reducing. A cultural change doesn't necessarily mean everything you're changing results in a reduction of spending, although it may look like that in the beginning because you simply don't value a lot of things like you did before. You start to truly value things that improve your health, that improve your state of joy, your continuous joy of peace, right? A cultural change could be a holiday you no longer celebrate. I've had the pleasure of working with multiple Jehovah's Witnesses over the years, and one of the things that Jehovah's Witnesses do, or I should say don't do, is holidays. They don't celebrate birthdays, they don't celebrate really any of the holidays. They don't celebrate Christmas, none of it. Do you know how much money you can save by not celebrating your birthday? By not celebrating Christmas, New Year's, all the alcohol that you can save, all the money we spend on gifts and presents. Oh my, what a tremendous amount of savings. But then you get to replace that activity maybe with something else that's simply more intentional. So you don't just do this holiday because it's what everyone else does. Now you actually, maybe you don't fully drop the holiday and do nothing on that day. Maybe you simply plan something with your family and friends, with the people that you love, and you go experience something together. Maybe you have a Bible study. Maybe you have a gathering and you make everyone brings the best food and we exchange stories. And maybe you do host a financial freedom workshop for your household, for your family and friends. And it becomes a cultural shift. Okay. So culture change. I've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of immigrant families, people who were not born in the United States. Their parents came here first. So you're first generation American. So specifically like that kind of dynamic. So if your parents were born in another country and then they came to the United States, boom, they're now living here, became citizens, all that. And then they had you here in the United States and you were raised by an immigrant mom or dad or both. There is there is a financial culture that exists that is distinct between Americans, people who were born in America, and your mom and dad also were born here in America. Most of the time, when I work with families where their parents were born in the United States and they also were born in the United States, and your parents were raised in the United States by their parents who were also born in the United States, between your parents and yourselves, you have adopted the American consumer ideology. You are consumers. Consumerism is an addiction. You make, you spend, you make, you spend, you make, you spend, you hustle, you spend, you hustle, you spend, you make, you spend, you make, you spend. And then I work with immigrants. Whoa. And it doesn't matter where they're from. It could be a Mexican immigrant. It could be African immigrant. It could be Asian immigrant. It could be Indian immigrant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of immigrant I'm talking to. Jamaican, Haitian, all the South America, Central America, doesn't matter. They're all the same in their financial culture, the way they use money. And what's interesting is we as Americans would look at them as being cheap. And there's a difference between being cheap and being frugal. There's a huge difference. I would say most immigrant families I talk to operate in a very frugal way. They're not being cheap. It's just their way of operating. It's their way of living. And I would argue that they're living in a state of joy and peace, happiness more often, I'd say more continuous, more often than the American families that I work with that have the Cybertruck, that have the G-Wagon, that have the Mercedes, the BMW, the Audi, that have a 3,500 square foot house, that have a lot of things. And then I talk to my immigrant families that are operating in a 3 bedroom, 2 bath of 4, 3, 15, 2,000 square foot houses worth 200, 300K. Mom is a nurse. Dad is a pharmacist, or dad is in engineering, and they've been married for 45 years, and they've been living here, and they've got investments, they have paid off house, paid off cars, no student loan debts. They're in their mid 50s, they're about to retire, and I get to work with them. And it's like, it's more of like they already have a very strong foundation. They have strong values, they have strong beliefs, they have strong roots in their household. And so we're able to often skip over the personal development quite a bit. And really, the strategies help affirm their existing foundation. It just helps elevate. So that I get to work with them because they're like, what's this? What's that? How does life insurance work? How does this Roth IRA work? How does, like, they don't know none of that. A lot of immigrants have no idea, like, what a standard qualified retirement account is and how that works. So I get to be the person that's blessed enough to go into that family, observe how they operate their living expense, how they manage their debt, how they manage their inflows and outflows. And it's like they already have part of their living expenses is savings, investments, but they just need help accelerating it, just multiplying, because they're like, they don't know. They don't know how to invest. They don't know how to where to save more efficiently. So I start just plugging and playing. And it's like I don't even have to fight for cash flow. I don't have to look for cash flow. It's all there. It's awesome. It's amazing. And when you take a deeper dive and you see how they live, and you start to see, okay, so they shop at the local farmers market. They go to the local grocery stores. So if they're Indian, they go to their Indian markets, the little, the corner supermarket stores. They get their fruits and vegetables for 50%, 75% cheaper than if you go to Publix, Whole Foods, and any other ones. Then when you look at how they celebrate certain holidays, yeah, maybe it's 2 gifts per person, tops, 3, if that. Versus you go to my house, come to the finance geek house. What? The way I used to grow up, picture a living room, any kind of living room. Think of your own living room in your own house. You got the tree. You can't even see the tree with the amount of gifts that we put up. That's how crazy it is. And you come to the finance geek house. We do lots of presents, lots and lots and lots. Like it's a competition. Okay? Imagine that every year for 20, 30, 40 years, just presents upon presents. And then the way it works for me is, December 25th, boom, Christmas, and then January 4th comes up. That's my birthday, so it's like double. Sometimes, my family got savvy with it. We just kind of just pack it all either during Christmas, and then we do like a little something for my birthday, or sometimes it was both. So it's like presents and presents on top of presents, right? And then you got all the other holidays that come with it. Whereas you hang out with immigrant families, and they're just so efficient. They're not trying to be efficient. They're just efficient. So they're not wasting food. Immigrant families, when I look at their grocery shopping and how much they spend, I'm like, okay, they know how to portion. I can easily tell. If you're a family of four, and I'll look at an immigrant family of four, they're like 700 or less a month, 7 or 800 or less. Finance Geek house, come to my house, easy. Two, my wife and we can easily, I can put up 700 in a month. Groceries, and just the two of us. Easy, easy. And so immigrant family, very efficient with their money and how they operate. And then I'll walk with American family of four, 1,500 a month. And then the excuse a lot of them say is, oh, organic, Denzel. It's organic, right? I talk to the immigrant families and I'm like, talk to me. How are y'all eating? Because if there's one thing that we all know when it comes to immigrant families is longevity. Do they not live the longest? You look at any immigrant family from any part of the world and they come here to the United States and you see how they eat and how they operate. These people are not overweight for the most part. These people are not overweight. They eat healthy and they live freaking long. Well into their everybody's living into their 90s, even hundreds. So I'm like, what are they doing? I'm still trying to figure that out. But I would argue a cultural change. Wow. Wow. The amount of wealth that can redirect back into your household and you just get more intentional with it. Insane. Telling you, working with immigrant families, it's awesome. I get to hear the accents. I get to hear how they operate, how they think. They're so much fun. They tell so much stories because they're able to experience more versus we Americans, we like to do things. We like to do a lot of things to get the experience, not realizing it could be the reverse. You can have the experience without having to spend so much and you're able to accumulate stories. And when you can accumulate stories and memories, you're able to live off those memories and stories and share it with friends and family over a very inexpensive meal or dinner or setting, time, place. And again, you just find yourself organically recovering cash flow. It doesn't have to feel like you're scrimping, scrapping, coming up with a budget plan. All these things that I think create a mentality of cheapness. And what I want to go for is intentional living, frugal. I would throw that in there, intentional living, and you're able to build off those things as well to hit the things that you actually want. So cultural change, that's a big one. I'll spend less time on everything else because it's like quick. So the next thing is a no spend year. Shout out to Layla and her YouTube channel, someone that I've been doing a little bit of content with recently. So I'll have some content coming out. I heard it from her on her YouTube channel. She did a no spend year, I want to say during COVID, which was like super smart. I think everybody spent less money during 2020 and 2021. But that was like forced versus hers was intentional. And what a no spend year looks like is you just simply not spending money on anything you don't need. Imagine that. Imagine you go through your entire finances and again, it's all about framing. It's how you frame this. I don't want anyone to do any of these strategies like changing your culture, no spend year, financial reset. I don't want you to do any of those things with the sole purpose of trying to get more money. It's a byproduct. It's a feature and benefit. What I'm more solving for is that personal development, is that intentional way of living, stepping into your true authority and how you're supposed to operate on this planet, and being fully convicted in that. And then these other things occur and it becomes like a benefit, not the source. It becomes a benefit. The source is your personal development to reclaim your authority over your household. That's what that is. That's what we're solving for. And as a byproduct of doing that, you will have more cash flow. You will have more wealth in your life. You will have more joy, more peace, more freedom in your life. So if you watch Layla's channel and she documented it, her no spend year, it was very intentional. She just cut off all the things that were considered wants, and she set the terms. She set the challenge. And for me, I equate it to wanting to exercise more, wanting to get in the gym, wanting to get stronger, or running a marathon, or doing some kind of a course run or something to that effect, where you train to then go and do something. A no spend year is like training for your intentional way of living. Something to consider. I'm not saying you have to do it, but you can set the terms. You'll look at your living expenses and say, okay, for 1 year, we just won't go out to any restaurants. Well, we won't go to any movie theaters. For 1 year, let's see if we can live off of the clothes we already have without having to buy any more clothes other than socks, underwears, like that, the things that do expire quickly. But like, can we live off of the shoes and the outfits that we currently have from January 1st all the way to December 31st? How much money would you guys save? How much money would your household save if you set that challenge for yourself? And hey, guess what? Let's say you break 8 months into it. Congratulations. High five. Recognize that you've been living a certain way for 30, 45 years, and you're going to have this sudden gradual shift. Understand you're going to have that pullback occur. Your former self is going to be wanting to pull you back out of that new way of living. So have that awareness. I'm letting you know now. So a no spending year is really, really cool. So then a financial reset. We have, similar to a no spend year, the way I view a financial reset is potentially stopping all things that I'm currently doing with my money, and I'm going to implement new things that I believe will accelerate my progress. That could be something like hiring a financial coach. That could be tracking your money for the first time. So you're going to show every week or every month, you're going to set time in your schedule, 60 minutes every pay period. Every time you get paid, we're going to sit for 60 minutes. And you're going to track where every dollar is going. Maybe you're going to go from budgeting money to stop budgeting because you realize budgeting doesn't work for your household. So you stop and you implement something different. A financial reset could mean I'm no longer going to invest in things that I've already been investing in. I'm going to stop contributing to all these retirement accounts and the 401ks, and I'm going to cut it all off temporarily to reset the body, to reset the financial household. So a financial reset, I would argue, could take about 3 to 6 months to actually fully implement, and then it would be like, that's your new way of living now. So a financial reset involves the part one of personally developing yourself, and a financial reset could involve you like cutting everything off. So I've had some clients do this where they were, max contributing to the qualified retirement accounts. They were investing money over here with this, and money's going in here in real estate, and they're trying to pay off debt over here, and they're sitting over here, and they got money going everywhere, delegating. They have no control. They don't know what their fees are. They don't know what their cost of investing is. They don't know their numbers. And so we go into this whole redirection of cash flow. We just temporarily cut everything off to see how much money do we truly have to work with. We'll even reset tithing, figure out giving. We reset it all temporarily to see where we currently at. And then we look at the actual financial opportunities or investments that they actually want to implement, they actually want to get involved with, and then go from there. Okay. So the final two things I think are huge. Increase your skills. When you go through a financial reset, you may also find more time in your life as well. When you go through a no spend year, when you go through a cultural change, you find yourself having all this extra time, even though you're working a 40, 50 hour plus a week job, because you're just changing what values you have. So you no longer value the TV. You no longer value the social media. So you're not scrolling and wasting time. You now completely shift what you do with the in-between time. I literally have clients that whether when they're doing their makeup, when they're getting ready in the bathroom, taking a shower, driving their car, making food, and even at work, if they're multitasking, or during their work break, during lunch breaks, they're just watching my content and maybe a few other channels. They're dialed in. They are absorbing knowledge and information and wisdom. They're reading books that I recommend to them. They're just super, super dialed in, and they're finding so much value in that, so much joy in just doing that. And then it becomes a culture. It goes past a habit. It just becomes a way of being, not a do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm just going to be this person moving forward because I like this person more. I like this person that can read a book all the way through. I like this person that can sit through a masterclass like this and not get bored. Because I know, like my former self had trouble reading a book all the way through, and I still do today. And listening through a long podcast setup, hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, to really let my thoughts flourish. So doing this with you, let me tell you, I get so much value out of doing things like this because I'm at the same time challenging my own thoughts and processes and how I formulate these ideas and how I speak it, how I articulate it in such a way to then have the energy to complete the rest of my day. When I make content like this, when I'm speaking to you guys over the phone, trust me, it is fuel for my life. Making content and talking to people like Paul and Jesus and Chris and Jerry and who else is in here? Carlos and Andrew. When I get to talk to people like you guys, I'm telling you, it's fuel for my body. It is literal fuel. I would equate it to literally eating my 3 meals a day. It is like when I eat my meals, I get the protein, I get the nutrients that I need, and I drink the water, and I'm good. But then I get spirit filled. Holy Spirit fills me when I'm creating content like this and when I'm talking to you guys over the phone. Again, way of being. So the final two, increasing your skills, doing something like this, having a whiteboard session with yourself. You could buy an easel, you could buy a simple whiteboard, and you can just set up a camera, your phone, and just start hearing yourself talk. Hear yourself articulate your ideas. Listen to yourself back. Why did I go high pitch in that moment? Oh, I seem to get real hot right here. I seem to get real excited when I get to this point. When you replay your own words back, like I would think that is a wonderful exercise everyone should do. Buy yourself an easel, simple whiteboard, get your phone. I don't care if you got to stack books up or whatever, get a simple, easy tripod and just record yourself talking. You don't ever have to post it. Just record yourself talking about your values and beliefs, your mission, your purpose. Articulate it, either use graphs, use your computer, write it down, speak it out, listen to yourself. And as you're watching yourself, I want you to process, do I believe him? Do I believe her? When you do that, I promise you, you're gonna have a really unique moment with yourself. I've done this many times. I have plenty of videos that I've never posted where I just challenge myself to not sell myself, but to be fully committed to the things that I'm saying, that I'm speaking. Do I believe that guy when I go back and watch this video? We're now over an hour in. Do I believe everything he's saying? I myself will listen to this video back and see, oh, I went up right here and then I was kind of like down and then I was more confident over here and and keep going. Increase skills. Networking is the last part that I think probably should be at the top as well. But networking, just like you all do that are clients, in a way you networked to work with me. So we're kind of networking. And then that networking turned into business. So think of this setting right here. We're on a live stream, everyone's in their home, or maybe you're in your car, maybe you're making food right now. We're networking. We're having a conversation. It's one-sided technically because I'm the one doing all the talking, but you have the opportunity to chat with me. And then I get to respond. We have a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of a dialogue. In another setting, we could be on a Zoom and we can go back and forth. So we're networking. We're getting to know each other. We're sharing ideas. Your ideas are, you're getting light bulb moments. You're blowing. Let me know in the comments if you're getting value out of all I've discussed so far. You're like, I'm with you, Denzel, or I'm lost, right? Be honest. And in that networking, I would argue, you're going to build relationship capital. When you build relationship capital, it gets you access to rooms you weren't originally invited into. Because the person that you networked with now vouched for you to be in that room. And now that you're in the room, you now have an opportunity to get to the next level. Okay? Hey, Jesus, I know who you're thinking of. It's not that Layla. It's another Layla. I did not create content with that other Layla. She's much bigger than me. So not talking about Harmozy Layla. Talking about the YouTube channel is Personal Finance with Layla. And it's just her rocking on, she's a financial coach, did some work together. And that's where I heard her speak about the no spend year. I never heard anybody else, any other YouTube channel, I've never heard anyone share that strategy before. So I decided to add that into my today's talk here. Yep, mindset, extremely important. Beautiful, beautiful. So now I've given you the framework. I'm going to leave this for a few more seconds. Take a screenshot, do what you got to do. I'm going to delete everything on here. And then we're going to do a case study implementing this. And we're going to do some Q&A as well. If you have questions, now's the time to comment. It could be totally off topic. It could be totally off topic. That's fine. If you got You got a specific question you're working on, you're trying to find a specific bank, you need me to give a little more information on something, let me know in the comments. You know how I am. I literally go through all the comments when I'm on a live stream, try to answer all of them before I end the live stream. So now what you're gonna see me do is you're just gonna see me work now. Now, some of you that are not clients, and maybe you're on the fence, you're thinking about working with me one-to-one, I think this will be really helpful for you to just see how I operate and how I think and how I work with folks. I think this will really help. I have 2 case studies that we could work through today as a possibility. I think I want to do this one. Now, most of you know that my passion is working with moms. For the last 7 years, I've been able to work with over 500 plus mothers across the United States. 500 plus. Sometimes it's just the mom, sometimes it's mom and dad, husband and wife together that I'm working with. Sometimes it's like a double. Sometimes I'm working with mom, and then mom has a daughter who's a mom, and I'm working with her. Or sometimes I'm working with mom who has a mom that's still alive, and I'm working with that mom and mom. So moms has just been my passion since day one. First client was my mom, and been able to help her achieve a lot of things. And I figured, well, if I can help her, maybe there's other moms out there I could help. And then go figure, in the financial community, nobody targets moms. So then I was like, the whole market is mine, essentially. So for the last 7 years, literally still to this day, I don't have really like any competition. There's no competition, right? I'm not fighting for business to work with moms. They're like just finding me on the internet through other channels. And I do things strategically to get in front of more moms that are wanting to become better stewards over their finances, to increase their income, to pay off debt, to provide financial security for their family, all this stuff. And so today's case study will be a mom that we're going to be working with. So far, I gave you the framework for paying off debt and building wealth. Now, obviously, from a tactical standpoint, I haven't done that yet. I gave you the philosophical, the ways of being, the structure, because that often gets missed big time. So here we go. Got a single mom, 5 kids. This is our income. 4,935 30 cents. Matter of fact, let me show you what we've done so far over the span of our time working together. Let me do it that way. Give you even more context. So this is August of 2024 is when I started working with this client. Probably a little sooner. Income originally was at 5,286. 59. Expenses were $4,770.97. We had, I want to say, over probably like 150 plus a debt. I think. I have to make sure my numbers are right. They're probably not. But we had a cash flow, $515.62. Then we are now a year later. What's today? August 11th. The last time I spoke to this client was toward the end of June. I think it was like mid-July. Now, our income is $4,935, so it went down a little bit, 30 cents. But so did our expenses. Expenses are 39,2496. Debt, according to our spreadsheet, we're at 102,541.56. Again, I know this number is wrong. I think it's a little bit less, probably like 120 something. This debt also is including an increase in debt. So over time, this person was paying off debt, but then we also had to increase our debt a little bit. Circumstances that happens. But our cash flow has hit over $1,000, which is awesome. We've had an increase in cash flow, decrease in expenses. And what this person has been really focusing a lot on is their mindset. Okay. And we've had multiple people in the comments mention how mindset is key. She has been focused on this, building up her values and beliefs. She is on a debt payoff plan right now. We're simply using the cash flow index method. So we're using cash flow index formula. That's just simply taking the balance owed on a debt, dividing it by the monthly payment, getting a score. The lower the score, you go in order from lowest score to highest score. Once you get above 50, you get to decide whether you want to pay that off or not. Cash flow index focuses on cash flow accumulation as that trying to be the fastest method. In addition to her mindset, increasing that, one of the critical moves that she made was she hired a financial coach, despite being in a pretty low cash flow position. Now, for as little as just $50 a month is what we're operating off now. We were at a higher payment initially. We dropped that down, something she could afford, and we're working together. We're making it happen. That is a huge step. Accountability. Okay? Accountability, support. Major mindset shift that occurs when you truly decide, okay, I'm going to bring somebody in to this household, a professional, and we're going to brainstorm and we're going to put the time and the commitment to make this happen. So this person is rocking and rolling. They have long-term goals, and I'm going to kind of share some of them. So they do have a property. So we've got some consumer debt. We have property debt. So let's do this one. 69,623. 24 cents. Mortgage payment 866.21. 3.88%. And that is one mortgage. We have a car, 3,759. Monthly payment 154.60. 4.49%. That's one car. I have a second car as well. So I know she drives one, and then daughter has a car as well. So this is an example of a mom that I'm working with, and then one of her kids is also a mom. So I'm like indirectly helping, everyone pretty much. But I predominantly work with mom. So this is another car, 5.74%. And then we have some student loan debt, credit card debt. So I'll just summarize it. Credit card debt of about 10,400. And then we've got student loans, just under 3K, not too much left there. That's only costing us like $50 at like 4%. Then with the credit cards, that's about $205 a month amongst the different credit cards. And then we've got a family debt of $3,600, 0%, $100 a month. This is the block that's in front of us. The debt is a block for this mom. If we were able to be debt-free, the total cash flow recovery $1,665.42 would be the cash flow gain. If we could pay all this off, that would be the cash flow gain. On top of the cash flow I already have, 1,000, 10, 34. Then on top of that, so from this expense number, we have implemented a profit first strategy as well. Another mindset move. Profit first is when you pay yourself before you even spend money, you save money. So every month, she is intentionally saving $400 a month, and that's going into emergency fund. So from a debt payoff standpoint and then total cash flow, when it's all said and done, let's see where we're at. So we got about $3,000 a month that we could recapture and be back in control of. So this is the debt payoff side of things. What are we currently doing right now? Again, cash flow index formula. So we are focusing on eliminating some of the credit card debt. There's one specific card that we owe 8,815.42. So 8,815.42. Monthly payment 133. And so we're taking that cash flow plus that 133 and we're just packing it on the card as of now. There is an additional strategy, as you know, if you're a frequent on this YouTube channel, that we could probably do velocity banking with that credit card by running some of her bills on that card, reducing the interest costs on a monthly basis, getting some points and cash back, all that good stuff. That's wonderful if you are disciplined and can commit to it. Sometimes when I work with folks, they're not able to do it, either for just comprehension, hard to get, takes a little bit long, something happens, life happens, throws them off, they find themselves increasing the credit card debt instead of decreasing it. So whenever I see that in households, I just tell them, look, it's not worth trying a strategy when there's all this risk attached to it if we don't fully get it and we don't have the committed framework and foundation to execute that strategy. It is going to take a level of discipline and focus, not just any level, but a high level of discipline and focus to execute something like that. To me, it's simple, but not to everyone. So I have her just simply making extra payments on that card. I said, the moment you pay it off, then we can maybe reuse that card. Because one of the cool parts about this specific credit card, her interest rate is 8%. 8.9%, sorry. 8.9% on that credit card, which is nice. That could be a good tool down the line. But again, we're not going to abuse, or we're not going to have the strategy abuse us if we can't control it. So we have to know if we're going to implement any kind of complex financial debt payoff plan, do we have the wherewithal, the committed foundation to execute that, or do we need a little more time, do something a little bit simpler, and then go from there? Okay. Now, as we're building that out, what I'm starting to really focus on as well with my clients is the wealth conversation side, and what position do I need to put myself in to accelerate wealth? My conviction, me personally, my conviction as it pertains to building wealth, having the freedom, the resources to execute your purpose on this planet, the most efficient way to do that is to have a business. So I want to spend a little bit of time on how a single mom of 5 can build a business in 2025 today, can recover a lot of money in taxes, reduce tax liability, create more wealth for their family, and be properly positioned for the long term without having to take on massive risk. Meaning, I don't need to hunt for any particular money-making opportunity online. What this person can do and what you can do watching, go back. The first half of this masterclass was focusing on the personal development side. Within your values, beliefs, your mission, and purpose, there's a business in there. And we have to just activate it. We have to unlock it. Then we go into the marketplace and we see where it can best fit. Into the marketplace, we need to develop our skill sets so that people can see our value and then pay us for that value. So with a single mom, 5 kids, what her vision, this is her own words, and I'm going to have you guys do this as well. Whenever I work with clients, I like to take lots of notes when I work with you guys, because it's your words that I'm then using on you whenever you fall off. And that's what accountability is for. So, entrepreneurial vision. This is from a mom of 5. I want to eventually be able to be my own boss and or be able to plug into something much bigger than myself and teach my children and grandchildren how to do the same. So we have a framework so far. So, mom, single mom, 5 kids. She is using the word entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Desire. She wants to be a boss. Okay. Or plug in to something bigger than herself. And the root or the result, once she learns how to plug into something bigger than herself, she wants to be able to teach her kids and the grandchildren. Teach children and grandkids. Huge. That's our foundation. Okay. Now, she's got some long-term goals here. There's things that she wants to do to her home. She wants to have a property in Missouri. Right? So we're located in Missouri. This is the state that we're in. She already has one home. She wants another property in Missouri. And essentially establish a compound. You know, some sort of properties, you know, foundation, home base, close to a gun range, so that she can learn how to shoot, her kids can learn how to shoot, they can learn how to defend themselves. That's a value that she wants. Okay. Cool. And we have experience. She's got experience in the medical field. So when I'm working with you one-to-one, I'm looking at existing skill sets that you have. Existing skill sets. And then new or unexplored interests. So we got existing skill sets, and then we have new or unexplored skills. From there, I will do research on the place that this person wants to be in. So it's critical that you spend time like this now with me. And I'm asking you to comment. 23 people in the house. I think we were upwards of 40 earlier. And I was asking you, what are your values and your beliefs? And what is your mission? And what is your purpose? And it's so interesting that really only one of you answered or even attempted to answer in the hour and a half. And I know not everyone is planted. I know some of you are mobile, in a car, driving, on your way to work, all that good stuff. But there are some of you that are planted, dialed in, focused. You're at your table, you're studying. This is your learning time. And you're not participating, you're missing out on an opportunity. My hope is that you'll at least comment in the video below once this video is done to just air your thoughts out. Get those thoughts out. There is no bad vision, no wrong purpose. It's simply in alignment with you or not in alignment with you. It's either clear or it's not clear. For this mom right here, we're not fully clear yet. We don't know exactly what it is, but we have these ideas that we're formulating, and I'm taking you through that process of how we're going to get there sooner. So I know that she wants to have a property in Missouri. She wants to establish like a base, be close to a gun range. So there might be a business there, potentially. I know that she has a desire to potentially be in a boss CEO position or plug into something like an organization that's bigger than herself where she can continue to grow her income. You know, she's more than willing to work with someone in partnership, not necessarily for someone. And we know that long term, she wants to be in a position where she can teach her children and grandkids. Okay, that's good. Now, what we also know is she does have some existing skill sets. What are her existing skill sets? Well, she's a mom of 5. She probably knows how to do a lot in terms of raising and patience, management. And she's already proven a good financial stewardship. We've been working together for a year, and she's been able to double her cash flow without necessarily increasing her income. In fact, her income went down about $200, almost $300. So very efficient with her dollars. That's very good. We're going to need that from an entrepreneur standpoint. Whew, we're going to need that. She's got medical experience, 26 years in the medical space. It's like a medical specialist. I forgot the exact title of her job. I think it's medical coding specialist. And so she's been in that field for 26 plus years. So there might be something in the medical field, right? And then we got new or unexplored skills. So whenever I talk to this mom in particular, we'll often have conversations about the government, about the way certain things are run and handled. So she had got me thinking, I'm like, okay, maybe she might be interested in politics later in her life. Maybe she might be interested in one of those advocacy type groups that are like indirectly, directly involved in politics to some extent. She's got a lot of thoughts about how certain things work and how they can work better. So she could be a operator, and that could be an unexplored skill set that she could build. All right, so these are the early growing stages, stepping into entrepreneurship, positioning ourselves for wealth creation. Let's say we figured out what the what is, and in this little column, the how, and we can start with the free way to do it up and then work our way up to paid. So initially, the moment you get an idea, you can establish a sole prop, a sole proprietorship. You're not incorporated yet. You're not officially in business yet, but that's okay. Because you have time to formulate these ideas and to save the money up to then put into the business to establish what that idea will be. So sole prop is typically free outside of whatever it costs to maintain a certain amount of money in a business checking account at a bank. I always recommend my clients to open up, when they're going to start a business, open up an account with a credit union, a local credit union, because their limits are going to be much smaller than Bank of America. You know, if you open up a business checking account with one of the big banks, you're going to pay 12, 15 plus dollars a month, probably. And in order to avoid that fee, you have to maintain sometimes about like 5,000 bucks, I think, or more per day. Maintain $5,000 or more in a business checking account to avoid that fee. Whereas at a local small credit union, sometimes the balance you have to maintain on a daily basis is only like $1,500, sometimes $1,000. Sometimes they give you like time to really get the money in there. So that's a nice little tweak there. So you got sole prop, which is free. I think someone can fact check me on this. Let's say you're sole prop for 1 year or less, and you had expenses of around, I think, 10,000 or less. Could be more, not certain. But you have what's called startup costs that could be used as taxable deductions before you even have the business in force yet. To give you an example, when I first started my business, and I'm going to delete this part right here, I started technically making videos on YouTube around August of 2018. I think it was August or sooner. 2018. I started making money. The first amount of money I made was August. Started making money. From August to January, I was unincorporated. I was essentially like a sole prop. I was receiving money from you all way back in the day. If you were with me back in 2018, people were giving me money. I was eventually going to have to pay income tax on that money. Ordinary income tax, highest tax that you'll pay. So from August to January, I had startup costs to run the business. So let's say I made 10 grand from August to January, but I had $10,000 of expenses. By January, I incorporated, got an LLC. My accountant was able to go back in time, and I think you can go back up to 1 year. And she was able to capture those startup costs, and that offset the income. So now that the tax liability either went to zero or very, very low. I ended up making a lot of money in my first year, but for most businesses do not make profit in the first year or any money at all. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because most businesses need about 3 to 5 years to profit. So there's a tax play that occurs where even if the business is not making money and this mom is still working a W-2, when she decides to start that business and get it going, even if it doesn't make money, she has expenses in here that can turn into tax deductions on the business side, which then lowers her tax liability on the W-2 side, which literally puts more money in her pocket. So she has more money, more net cash flow, and she directed dollars to the business, got a tax deduction for that, she gets a refund, a higher refund on her tax return. And that gives her the time to really grow the business and step into the thing that she really, really wants to do. So we're not going to abandon the debt payoff. We're going to still do that. But we're also formulating ideas. This doesn't cost anything but your time. So you're building your time. You're intentionally depositing time into the wealth building activities according to your skills, gifts, and talents, new and or unexplored skill sets to discover the thing that you want to do. This mom hired a financial coach, partnered up with me, has the accountability and support. She's using other methods. We're putting it all together and we're making it happen. So, simple case study, just showing you like we can be at any level and make this happen. So netting just under 5K a month is not a lot of money in the United States, okay? But because she has incorporated cultural shifts, she's transformed her mind, she did one particular move that most people never do in their life. She invested in accountability. So she could have took this $50 that she's paying me a month, and she could have bought Bitcoin with it. She could have bought a stock with it. She could have, just had that money sit in a high yield and be scared and worry and hope and pray for a rate of return. She decided, and it was a higher number initially, but we reduced it so that she could have more cash flow to achieve her moves, because I'm confident and I'm the type of coach that if you do what I say, if you lock in with me and you actually execute on the things that we discuss and I lay out the blueprint and you follow it and you do it, I'm very accommodating. I'm more than willing to cut my amount of money that I'm making off of my clients, I'm more than willing to reduce. There's even times where I go to zero. The fact that that person initially committed to say, I want to work with you. I'm not in the best shape financially. I want to work with you. And I'm willing to do the work. So they say it, they do it, they initially sign up, then they actually do the work. And let's just say life happens. It wasn't anything they weren't doing. It's just life happens, circumstance happens. Like for this particular case, this mom that I'm working with, there was a death in the family. One of her kids had an injury, broke his leg. Like there's been stuff that's happened to this mom. And then she had an honest conversation with me, say, hey, I'm not able to afford the coaching plan that I initially signed up for. Can I pause, come back to you later? I said, absolutely not. You're not going to pause anything. Matter of fact, we're going to reduce the number to zero or whatever you think you can afford at this place and time, but we're not going to cut off our relationship. That's what we're not going to do. So you're going to keep calling me every month and you're going to check in and you're going to dial in and we're going to keep doing the work despite our circumstances. When you get that mindset to say, I need the accountability, I need a partner to team up with, to take me to the next level, game changer. I'm very accommodating when it comes to my price. Like my price is my price. And if it takes you 5 years to pay it, so be it. If it takes us 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, so be it. Let's make it happen. Like I'm very accommodating. I'm in a position now, so blessed, where I don't think about money anymore. In a sense, like even though I think about money all day long in terms of like working with clients and running numbers, running case studies. So in a way, yes, I think about money all day, every day, in a sense, because it's my work. But I don't think about money like others think about money in terms of like I need it to do this and I'm hoping for this and blah blah blah. And what is this gonna happen? For me, it's like I'm just operating. I'm just being who I am. I have these ideas in my brain about how money works, how it could work for this situation or another situation. And we implement it. And as long as I have that commitment from you, wow, we are able to do wonderful, amazing, impactful things together, just like this mom is doing in just 1 year. Been able to double her cash flow without increasing her income. Her income actually went down a little bit. Circumstances outside of our control, but we're still dialed in. We're still working. We're still paying off debt and we're still building and having ideas and conversations because we're doing all that now. As more debt gets paid off and more cash flow frees up, when the opportunity strikes and presents itself for her, she's going to have the confidence to move forward because she's already done the groundwork. She's done the mundane stuff. She's reading the books. She's watching the content. She's engaged. That's what this is all about. So again, when it comes to building wealth simultaneously while trying to get out of debt, the most efficient way to position yourself on the wealth side is to establish a business, but not just any business, not just a business you think that's going to make you money. No, you want to dial in on those values, beliefs, that purpose, that mission. We look at your pre-existing skill sets that you have and any new or unexplored skills that you're interested in, combine that together. We do market research together and we find out who's doing what you may want to do already or get engaged in so that we can proceed. And it doesn't cost a whole lot. It's amazing. It's amazing. So We got Jerry in the house. Need your one-to-one coaching. Followed you for a year or so, but I don't know what I don't know and can't afford to make a mistake. I'm signing up right after this presentation. Wonderful. For those of you that are at that point, willing to make that commitment, I have on my website, denzelrodriguez.com, all my services are there that you can view. And again, I'm very accommodating in terms of like payment options, payment plans. So I have the most amount of payment plans and options that I've ever presented before. So that link right there will take you. You can see all different options, what you get, the whole layout, everything. One of those is going to work. One of those is going to fit for everybody. Love, you're a student and adherent of Dr. Miles Monroe. I don't live up to the kingdom standards, but I'm working on getting there. Nice reference to his definition of repentance. Absolutely. Absolutely. We got a question. Love it. What is better, to do a lump sum or monthly premiums, and why? Beautiful. So quick little segue. Carlos, thank you for asking the question. Carlos is referring to life insurance premiums. His question is it better to do a lump sum or monthly premiums? So when it comes to funding a life insurance contract, a permanent life insurance contract with cash value, let's say whole life, you have the option to make your premium payments monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annual, or sporadic, depending on how the company structures it. I, for the last 7 years, have been paying my policies on an annual basis, a lump sum basis, all up front, simply because it is technically cheaper to do. So let's say you're going to fund your policy $10,000 a year. If you were to stretch that out over monthly payments, the total amount ends up being like $10,600 or like $10,500. That extra $500 is just fees from the insurance company because they're taking on the risk of the death benefit that they're insuring you for, that you're paying the $10,000 on. That's why they do that. They're also providing an incentive on the other end. So if you say, I'm going to pay $10,000 a year and you're going to give me this amount of death benefit, that $10,000, if you pay it all up front, it's less risk to the insurance company. That was the agreed upon contract. Pay that all up front, they give you the incentive of it just being $10K. Then all throughout the year, your $10,000, a portion of that goes into the cash value and it starts to grow day one. Day one of starting the contract, how much is it in there in cash value? That's how much it's going to grow by. Versus the person that pays monthly, your money is growing each time you put new dollars in. So if you compared someone that pays their policy monthly compared to someone that pays their policy annually, same age, same gender, same health rating, all of it, same funding amount, the person that's paying in lump sum, one payment per year, is going to have more cash value. Their policy is going to perform better. And they technically paid in less because they're just paying in 10,000 versus the person that pays in monthly is paying 10.5, 10.6, something to that effect. Hopefully that helps, Carlos. Can't go wrong with his methods. Thank you, Tim. Shout out to Tim, another longtime client working together for been following me for years. Definitely due for a call. I look forward to speaking with you soon as well. Are you interested in another case study or are you guys burnt out? Let me know in the comment section. We got 19, 20 or so people in the house. Let me know if you're up for one more case study. If not, we can close it here. I'll answer any other questions you may have, and we'll be on our way. I'll wait for one comment to come in the meantime. I'm going to put everything back on the board so you can kind of see everything. I can finish up my point here about the positioning, how, you know, you can start with a sole prop once you have the idea and the direction that we want to go in, and understand that there's a tax play. So if you're a high W-2 earner, let's say husband and wife, husband makes all the money, and let's say wife has an idea, she's a stay-at-home mom, wife could start a sole prop, and even if she makes no money in that business, she is unlocking tons of tax deductions for the household that would reduce husband's W-2 tax liability. So even though wife didn't make any money in the business, let's say, she actually brought $10, $15, $20,000 in tax savings. That's insane. And that's happening a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Okay, so Tim says case study. Orlando said, let's go. Jerry's like, I'm good with one more. Let's do it, let's do it. And then Jerry just commented that he just signed up. Do I discontinue my manifesto membership? I'll go ahead and do that for you. Send me an email that you just went ahead and signed up, and I'll go ahead and cancel it for you, because whatever you signed up for, whether it was the $275 a month or $375 or $150, you're already getting the manifesto program. So you're already getting all of that. So yeah, I'll cancel it for you. If you don't know how, I can do that for you. Okay. So everyone is good with another. Beautiful. It's just us. We're rocking. We're rolling. You guys aren't burnt out yet. That's good. I'll tell you, this is fuel for me. I love this. Okay. So the next case study, I love this because it also shows that age is not a factor. Age is a non-issue in this ecosystem. So I don't care how old you are, if you've got the will, God can make a way. The universe will abide. God will make a way. God will show it, will reveal for those who are committed, fully engaged. So this is another client I've been working with for years now. Such an honor to work with this person. We've got another mom that I'm working with. I want to say I've been working with her since 2019. So just to save time, be a little more efficient, we're just going to fast forward to 2025 as of right now. And I've done a case study before, I think, on her numbers. But we are about to be in a phenomenal place. Here's what we're working with. We got $4,789 of income per month. This person is retired, 70 or 71 years old. I forget. I think she just had a birthday. So forgive me, my current client. We have a mom. She's been retired. She's been retired since we first met. So she retired successfully. This income of $4,789 is made up of Social Security income and a pension. Okay. In terms of debt, we have just a mortgage left. $326,259.86. We're in Florida. Single mom. Okay. Retired. And one of the things that we have been working on for years, paying off debt. And we've been doing a phenomenal job. She's paid off everything except for her primary residence. That current mortgage payment is $3,164 per month with an interest rate of 8.13%. All right. 8.13%. Technically speaking, as of right now, she is operating out of a negative cash flow and has been for quite some time. So I'm going to give you the real technical number, but we're about to be in a positive cash flow position of this, roughly that amount, that 1,100 number is what we're estimating. But let me look at what we're actually currently at. So it's 2295 is her living expenses. And then we add that mortgage payment, 3164. So technically, as of right now, we're here. It's 5,459.38. So 4,789 minus 5,459.38. Technically, we're operating out of a negative $670.38 cash flow. It could be a little bit more, but that's where we're at today. When I first met her, we were in multiple negative thousands of dollars of cash flow, and we did a lot of work. It's been an amazing journey so far. It's been amazing, let me tell you. I've had the pleasure to meet this person in person. It was awesome. And for those of you that are lifetime clients, I make myself exclusively available to you, especially if you live in Florida, anywhere in Florida for that matter. And whenever I travel, I was just in Nashville. I'm going to Arizona for another speaking engagement from August 21st to the 23rd. Anytime I travel, as long as you are a client, you're on my email newsletter, you're subscribed, you want to meet me in person, I will make that time if I'm going to be in your area. Okay? I usually only travel for business whenever I speak, go to an event, or if I'm traveling with my wife. And there's been a few scenarios where I'm traveling with my wife, we're on vacation, but I make a little time to have a coffee with somebody that is a client. And it's an awesome experience because one of the things that I can attest to, every single client I meet in person, after that meeting, for some reason, their numbers just get better. And what I mean by that is like they're more committed. They're dialed in. They're like, oh shoot, he's met me. He knows, like, he's seeing it now. And so when we talk together, it's like there's not that they were lying before, but it's like it's even more accurate, the data that I'm getting. It's more dialed in. It's more focused. There's more clarity. There's more vision. So there is something special about that human connection, which you can't measure it on a spreadsheet. It's just these added features and benefits that help people really take their finances to the next level. So I just wanted to share that with you. So technically we're here. We're about to be here. The goal is to pay off debt. We're also going to be simultaneously building wealth. And wealth building shifts season to season. When you're younger, it's all typically about, cash flow accumulation and building that business, getting it to the next level. When you're like 10 years or less out from retirement, you're thinking, I got to build more passive income to retire. And then when you're in retirement, it's a different ball game as well. Now you're thinking, well, I've created the wealth. How do I spend the wealth efficiently? So this is a conversation now of paying off debt in retirement while simultaneously building wealth for preservation for the next generation, and also spending the wealth. How do you spend your wealth throughout your lifetime? If this woman lives to 100 years old, she's got another 30 years on earth. How do we spend our money in wealth, right? In retirement, I mean. How do we spend that? So one of the moves that we've been working on is converting the first lien mortgage at 8.13% with a payment of $31.64 and converting it into a all-in-one loan, or otherwise known as a first position home equity line of credit. And we're going to implement the velocity strategy. Okay, we're going to accelerate her debt, putting her in an automatic cash flow positive position. Okay. And then remaining liquid in the process in retirement. Let me share with you some other assets we already have at play. We have an IRA. I want to say that has 65K plus in there. We have a Roth IRA. I want to say 10,000 or more is in there. We're not contributing to those at all. We have an annuity where we contributed about 150,000 into that so far. And with the annuity, I want to say the payout when she turns it on is going to be over $1,000. I think it's like $1,100. I'm going to verify real quick. See if I can pull it up for you guys. Okay. So what's cool, we initially started with 150 grand in January of 24. So this was January 2024. Just a year later, the account value is now at 175,930.11 as of January 2025. So she bought an annuity at a time where interest rates were, really, really pumping. They still are. Still really good time. And if she were to turn the annuity on this year, which she doesn't have to, the guaranteed payout is 10,115.98 divided by 12. So about 842.99. That's the guaranteed payout if she were to turn it on as a lifetime income that adds to her overall income. She would get the Social Security, the pension, and the annuity. That's if she turned it on this year. By next year, if I'm not mistaken, I think it would be about $1,000 if I'm not mistaken. So quite powerful in that sense, providing her with that secured income. And what's nice is whether she turns the income on this year, next year, she is securing this money, it's insurance, money that's paid for her whole life. And then when it comes to the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA, she doesn't have to touch that. So she can allow her investments to just keep compounding year over year over year in retirement, have low fees, and just let that money keep on growing and not have to really ever touch that. Because on the debt payoff side, if we can eliminate that mortgage payment, that's a massive amount of cash flow back into her economy that she gets to say, I want to spend it, or she can invest it and keep growing her wealth here and then turn on the income over here. So pretty powerful stuff. So let's do this. Let's say the all-in-one loan, let me pull up the details about that one. We're like very close to the closing of the all-in-one. So what we got approved for was a $331,650 line of credit. So this is our credit limit. I believe the interest rate is going to be like 7.8% or 7.7 if I'm not mistaken. I'm waiting on that final number, but we can go off that. So 8.13 to 7.8, that's an immediate savings. Then on top of these other assets, we also have about 161,000 in savings, and that's sitting in a high yield savings. I want to say she's earning about 3.5% on that money as of now. We also have some life insurance. So she's got life insurance, about 150K on the death benefit, and about 5K in cash value, if I'm not mistaken. These are policies she's had before we even met. So she's just been paying those. So we got 150,000, that's for wealth preservation she has to pass on. We have two accounts here, the Roth IRA and the IRA, which we really don't need to touch. That money is wealth preservation. That's going to keep growing. We have this insurance money, this 150,000 initially. It's grew to 175. It can pay out a distribution of 842.99 on a guaranteed level just a year later, and that number could easily go up, could easily be higher if she waits. So I'm just going to use that super low number as of right now. Then we've got the 160,000 in savings. So at 326, 259.86 owed, plus closing costs, I'm going to guesstimate 5K-ish, maybe more in closing costs. So what happens when you get a first lien HELOC is you have to have money for the closing costs, and then space. You need to create space in the line of credit. So they don't want you to owe too much on the line initially, because when you're doing a refi and it's that tight of a credit limit, so they approved her for 331,650 because of her low income. Even though she has great credit, doesn't have any crazy debt. So we were able to leverage her assets to be able to approve that high of a credit limit. Even though the house is worth more than that, but she only got approved for 331. That's really based off the fixed income that she's on. And the fact that technically she was operating out of a negative cash flow, but she's been spending her assets down to, finance until we can get to that positive place. So with all-in-one, they gave us this number so far, 15,000. Not all of that is cost. It's 15,000, there's cost in there. And then it's also space for the line of credit. So if I have a credit limit of 331 and I'm already going to owe 326 out the gate, you need to have, they like you to put almost like a month's worth or more of your income into the line, because moving forward, you're going to have a checking account and the all-in-one all together. So it's a checking account, it's a loan, it's a line of credit all in one. So literally your checking account number, your routing number is the same to your loan on the property. So she's going to be, you need time to switch banks over and get set up. That usually takes about a month. So they want to make sure you got money in there. So what I'm going to do to be super conservative is take off 15,000 from the 161, but still start us at owing 326. So this is what I'm going to assume. 326, and I'll make it easy, is what we owe. Let's say we're at a 7.8 interest rate. Now we go from a principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment to now just interest only payments. This frees up a lot of cash flow for her. So now we're at interest only payments. So let's see. 326 times 7.8%. Her interest only payment owing 326 is going to be 2,119. So we go from a 3,164 payment down to a 2,119. So we got about 1,045 in savings. But we don't stop there, do we? We're going to keep going. Because what's next? Well, she's got this cash that's sitting in a high yield savings earning 3.5%, when we could be recovering 8.13. 8.13 went down to 7.8. 7.8, we can reduce that further to like 5% or less. So let's see, what would it look like if she took the bulk of that money and just parked it into the house? How much more are we saving there? So we can look at the bulk of it and just say, let's do 161. I'm going to minus 15,000, right, to be conservative. say a 146, and we're going to dump, let's just say 140. So 326 minus 140 is 186. 186,000. So now I went from 326 owed on the property down to 186 with a credit limit of 331. That money's still available. If I get scared, she could pull that money right back out if she wanted to. All right? There's no limitation there. So now I owe 186 times 7.8%. Now my interest only payment is $12.09 per month. My income, let's say she turns the annuity on, starts collecting $842.99. So you got 842 plus the rest of her other fixed income. Let's say we're here, 5631.99. And now our expenses are, I'll use that 1209 number plus living expenses was 2295.38. So I'll round up, I'll keep this number. I'll use that. I'll round it up. Call it 36. Now, when you switch from a 30-year fixed mortgage to an all-in-one loan, you're now responsible for property taxes and insurance. Before, with her 30-year mortgage, she's paying her property taxes and insurance in escrow on a monthly basis. So her property taxes and insurance are $1,516.84 per month. Let's times that by 12. So we're paying $18,202.08 a year. So if we did 3,600 plus 1,000, 1,684. Technically, her expenses per month would be 5,116.84. But since that's not the case with an all-in-one, on a month-to-month, she's actually on the low end cash flowing about $2,031 per month. That cash flow, property insurance money, now becomes cash flow to the all-in-one to start knocking the balance down much faster. And the faster you knock the balance down, guess what? Her interest cost is driving down much faster now because we're using more than just extra payments or extra cash flow. We're now using every single dollar that comes into our economy is 100% principal pay down on the property, yet staying liquid for unexpected stuff. Now here's where it can get even better. This 18,202.08 number is what she was paying in property taxes and insurance. But when you go from paying monthly to annual, one shot, you actually can save money, both from the government paying property taxes and the homeowner's insurance company that she's with they can provide an incentive for paying your bill in full. And from a Florida resident, what I've seen personally with my property taxes is if I pay mine in November when it's first due, I'm going to save about $400 for the whole year. Versus if I waited to pay it all the way out to January or February. So let's say I'm going to cut that savings in half. Let's say she could save $200 by paying her property taxes in full. And with homeowners insurance, I saved, for paying in full, another $500+ or so. So we're just going to guesstimate. Let's say she could save about $500, which I think is very reasonable. So now we're at $17,702.08. That'll actually come out to pay those bills. Meanwhile, we're going to start velocity on the all-in-one. All her income is being parked into the all-in-one. Expenses are coming out. This $3,600, which includes the interest costs. And again, that number is not going to be $1,209 each month. In fact, even in the first month, it's not going to be $1,209. Let's prove it. 186 times 7.8% divided by 365. So we're paying $39 a day in interest. She then gets her income, 186 minus 5,600, let's say, times that by 7.8%, divide by 365. That's $38 a day, 55 cents, 186, boom, and then add expenses, 184. Excuse me, had to hold my sneeze there. So 39.32. Add those numbers up, gets you like a nice healthy estimate. 39.74. And then divide by 3. And then times 30 days. 1,176.10. 1209. A $32 difference. Now watch this. I said she had about 2,200 or so in living expenses. 2295.38 in living expenses. Let's say of that 22 divided in half, let's say 1,500 she could run on a credit card and get 2% cash back. That's $30. So 1,500 times 2% cash back rewards is $30 per month times 12 is $360. So if I can, in a year, over a 12-month period, let's say her interest costs reduces by about $25 every month, which is underestimating it. $25 is $300 a year in interest reduction using the strategy. So we have 300 plus we have 360 in cashback rewards. And that's not even counting the fact that your interest reduction on the all-in-one increases when you're floating expenses on a credit card 20 to 25 days out of the month. That means you have an extra $1,500 that stayed in the all-in-one that did not get charged interest. If you looked at how much is 1,500 times 7.8% and divide that by 365, so that's 32 cents a day. So 32 cents times 25 days is another $8. So on top of my $30 in cashback rewards, you can argue that also created about $8 a month in interest savings. Times 12 is $96. So here you got 96 plus 360 plus 300 for the year in average reduction, plus say $500 in property tax and insurance savings from switching from monthly to annual payments. So we've got this $1,256.16 of essentially new money that became cash flow that sits in the line of credit. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but do that every year. Now it starts to make a difference. Do that every year. And I'm not even done. I'm not even done. There's more. Because when it comes to this person's credit, they still have great credit. So in about 6 months from now, I could have her go to a credit union, get a 0% credit card for say 12 months, and 0 balance transfer fee. And let's say she gets approved for 15K. I could have her take a transfer of 15,000 out of the all-in-one, just park it in the credit card, 0 balance transfer fee. So no fee, no cost to turn credit into cash. Now you got 15 grand that's sitting out of the HELOC times 7.8% for a year. So that's another 1170, let's just say, in interest savings for the year. And then she could just, come month 11, month 12, she just makes a payment to the credit card. That money goes back into the all-in-one. You would have just paid the monthly required payment, and there's no essential new cost to that. Like, you're making a payment, but it's 0%. It didn't cost anything. So maybe it reduces that 1170 by a few bucks, but nothing crazy. So when you combine all of this, right, and this is a person that's retired, this is a person I've been working with for years, so they comprehend all of this, and they're able to execute, and they have my support. They're not going to implement this mom is not going to implement all this at once, but it is happening simultaneously in a very organic, healthy kind of a way. And mind you, we haven't touched these other assets that she has. So it puts her in a very, very healthy position to pay off wealth, pay off debt fast, increase her wealth, even though she's dedicating a lot of it to debt elimination, puts her in a positive cash flow position, keeps her fully liquid. Right? You got a $331,000 credit limit that you just got with a bank that specializes in first lien HELOC, so we don't have to worry about the bank, quote unquote, having all this fear that they're just going to close my line. And guess what? Even if they did, this client knows exactly what to do. If that were to happen and the first lien HELOC, for some random reason, they decide to close her HELOC, we could just refinance back into a traditional mortgage. Or I could go to a different bank and get a first lien HELOC. So if All-in-One decides to play games, close her HELOC up, okay, I can just go to another bank. There's another bank called University Bank. They'll be happy to take my business. I could go to PNC Bank. They'll be happy to take my business. I could go to Space Coast. So the list goes on. I could go to any other bank that wants my business, sees that I'm a tier 1 borrower with great credit, never late, ton of equity in the home. I've paid down the house dramatically. I got all this equity in there. And then I can restart the process again. And then by then, maybe I get an even better rate. Okay. Now here's where it gets even better. Because this is a variable interest rate, that'll fluctuate. It can go up, it can go down. Now, what's most likely going to happen under this current administration that we're in 2025, she may start at 7.8%. The Feds have their meeting coming up in September, and Jerome Powell did already signal, if I'm not mistaken, that they will most likely decrease interest rates by September, if not December for sure, by the end of the year. So the current administration has been pushing on decreasing interest rates. So if rates go down 0.5%, 0.25, she benefits in that instead of being locked in at a fixed rate. And the reverse would be true as well. If rates went up, well, her rate would go up. But we're in a time right now where that is just so unlikely to happen. So I'm very confident that we start off at this 7.8 rate, let's say, and then by the end of the year, we're probably sitting around 7.5% potentially, maybe even less. What does that look like? 184,000, just 7.5, just 0.3% difference. All right, it's 1150 compared to 1209. So 1209 minus 1150. So there's a $60 difference there in interest costs per month. And then when you implement the strategy, how much did it go down by? Another $32. So that 1150, same thing, minus 32, we're at 1118. And then you do all the math. This thing starts to come down real fast. So we can see how, okay, over the next 6 months, we're in August. So let's say she starts the HELOC now. September, October, November. Say 4 months. Very reasonable that this HELOC will be around 180, and then it'll shoot up to pay whatever the remaining property taxes and insurance is, because she has that escrow account that's going to get either refunded to her or be used for the property taxes and insurance. If it gets refunded to her, well, then that money just gets parked into the all-in-one as well, reduces the interest cost, and then it'll come right back out to pay her property taxes and insurance. So her focus at this point over the next few years just becomes knocking down the HELOC. She'll be operating out of a positive cash flow position of about $2,000 on a month-to-month. And then for 1 month, it technically goes negative 17,000, and then back to normal, right? Or November property taxes and insurance if it's due in December. So 2 months out of the year, she operates technically a negative cash flow because you're paying this bill all up front. And then from January all the way to November on a cycle, all that money just flows back into the line of credit. Okay? So a lot just happened there, right? A lot. but she is in a very, very healthy position right now. And again, her Roth and her IRA can continue to compound. That can continue to grow. She could even contribute money to that while simultaneously getting out of debt. And if she's earning more than 7.5, 7.8% over here on these two accounts in about 2-3 years, so when she's like 74, 75, depending on where the balance is on this HELOC, if it goes all the way down to like under 100, and these two accounts grew to 100 or more, she's in a position now where she could either fully liquidate, pay the house off in full, and don't touch it, just have an open line of credit, or keeps going, leaves this money alone, lets it keep growing, keeps compounding, and she can keep just paying off her house over, through her 70s. But then what happens is it's not just about paying off the house and doing nothing. She gets to be in a position where if rates come down over the next 2-3 years, comes down to like 4 or 5%, and she's riding that interest wave down, what will most likely happen is all in one, they'll release new products where they, because back in 2020, 2021, they were doing these, these interest only, fixed rates. That's what it is. So it's interest only, HELOC, but it was a fixed 3.5% rate. And then you could lock it in for 3 to 5 years. Then 2023, 2024, they started getting rid of it, and they haven't offered it since. So if rates come back down, they may reintroduce their fixed rate 3-year, 5-year rate lock on an all-in-one. If they bring that back, this person on the board here and other clients I have, I'm absolutely going to encourage them, say, hey, go ahead and lock in that 3-year, 5-year fixed 3 to 5% rate again, if we get to those low rates. And then you could leverage some of the equity in your home to go earn 10, 12, 15% in another area of focus, and that's on the wealth side. So whatever interest this mom has, we can, again, start a business, opens up the door to tax deductions to reduce her tax liability on the W-2 side with all this fixed income that she's getting. And that's just more money that just parks in the HELOC. Eventually, when the home is paid off, she's got this open-ended line of credit for $331,000 and she can use whatever she wants. Or she doesn't use it at all and then just cash flows $2,000-3,000 plus per month. Keeps using her credit cards, keeps getting points, can contribute to her Roth, can contribute to her IRA, and just let that keep growing and growing and growing. If I'm not mistaken, I think the IRA, I think you have to take distributions after like 72 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But the Roth IRA, you never have to take distributions from. So she can keep contributing to that, $8,000 per year, and have that keep growing. And with that, that is 2 case studies today. Nearly 3 hours of work that we put in together. So take one more look at the board here. Doing phenomenal work together. Carlos, 57 and retired, doing the first lien HELOC plus the life insurance strategy. You're doing 2% cashback cards for the year. You love those. Awesome. We got Janine out of Missouri as well. Orlando, Denzel, an unfortunate illness. Oh, wait, there's another message, I think. Thank God I'm good. Oh, okay. You had an unfortunate illness. Good now. Wife works. You're unemployed. with a self-directed IRA, when I sign up, what option do I pick? Payment options. Well, take a look at the options, whichever works for you. What is based on affordability before you sign up. Talk to wife. I want y'all on the same page. So let's go through that first before you just sign up. Make sure you talk to wife about it. I want you both on the same page. And again, you pick the one that you can afford. If you don't see anything in there that you can afford, you email me. I have other options. I go as low as $50 a month, as you saw earlier on my other case study. I have plenty of moms paying me right now. $50 a month, $100 a month, $150 a month. Some even zero, but that's just based off of they initially start at a certain amount and have to go down because of circumstance. But I said, hey, we're not quitting this relationship. So we're going to keep going because I'm the guy people come to when you get in the thick of it. We're in the mess. That's where I thrive. And then people do well, okay? And hopefully I helped you build a strong foundation, but still life happens. And then what happens is people do really well and they stop talking to me. That's what that messes people up. They don't realize it. They oh, I'm good now, Denzel. Thank you so much. Da da da. Boom, life hits them, punches them in the mouth. Then they come straight down and they're hitting me up again. I say, hey, let's maintain communication this time around. And then when life hits them, they get hit, but they don't have a crash and burn moment. They just have like a stalling event. They're still growing, but maybe a little slower. With that accountability and support, they're rocking and rolling. So with that being said, I'm going to close it out. This has been wonderful. God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. I have links in the description below. You can get a hold of me. You can book an initial consultation on my calendar. I have now, with Jerry just signing up, I now have 44 spots remaining in my lifetime program. So I only take on so many clients per year. I had opened up my lifetime program a couple months back. I'm only taking on 50 more families. So with Jerry, he now brought it down to 44, and it looks like Orlando wants to sign up again, sign up and figuring out what the payment option will be for him. So that'll bring it to 43. Once I acquire those 50 more families before the year is over or before, that program will close. So I want you to keep that in mind. I only take on so many families per year because I'm only one person. I run a very, very tight financial practice where this is all I do all day long, is talking to people Monday through Friday and even sometimes on the weekends to really serve people at the highest level. And once I reach that number, I close it. I'll reopen it again one time a year. Every year I open it up and I just take on another 30 to 50 more families. And then we're locked in for life. Okay, so this is the last year that I'm doing lifetime. Going into 2026, it's going to go off an annual basis. I just charge like one price for the year, and then you just renew year over year until a certain point, and then we just have an ongoing relationship. So I'm going to figure out what that will look like, but I'm getting to that point where I have hundreds of families that I'm working with one-to-one. So I want to make sure I continue to provide the best service, and I'm working on partnering up with other financial coaches and helping, build this community a little bit stronger. So with that, God bless you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be talking soon. Bye now.